Hey guys, hope your week is going very well. Today I'm making a video that many of you requested and I planned on making from the moment I found out the news. I've just had a very busy week, so I'm only getting around to it now. If you've been paying attention to my channel, I've uploaded like 4 videos in the last 3 days. I was at Disneyland by myself for a couple days earlier in the week, and then I just released a short film I've been working on over the Christmas break. But now I have some time. But not much time because tomorrow I will be heading back to college, so this is also going to have to be quick. The big news that came out this week that shocked the entire NASCAR world, that was leaked, I guess, on Tuesday and then was publicly announced on Wednesday, is that Carl Edwards, a 28-time winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, is retiring. Well, not necessarily retiring as he put it, but stepping away from the sport for the foreseeable future. Carl Edwards, most of you will know, is driver of the number 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Before that, spent many years at Roush in the 99 car. He's finished second in points, I believe, twice. He had a season where he won 9 races. Like I said, he won 28 total. Never quite won a championship, became very close several years, including tying in 2011 for the championship lead, losing the tiebreaker ultimately to Tony Stewart based on wins. Now this news comes as a shock to many people for several reasons. I mean, first of which, Carl Edwards still in the prime of his NASCAR career. I mean, he came within 1 restart of winning the championship last year. Carl Edwards is only 37 years old, and by comparison to many of the other NASCAR drivers, he's in some of the best shape out of any of them. I'm talking about physically. I mean, he ain't no Tony Stewart out there. Must be all that Subway he eats. And then obviously to go along with the fact that he's one of the most talented drivers in NASCAR, he's also one of the most popular. Carl Edwards is known for being one of the most likable guys in the garage. Most people like him. Very few people hate Carl Edwards. You know, he hasn't really done anything to make anyone hate him. Carl Edwards' last win as of now came in the rain-shortened race at Texas earlier this year to get himself into the Final Four, where he ultimately lost. But what a successful career. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just rattle off all the list of achievements Carl Edwards has, because other than a championship, he's done some pretty great things in his career. We all know that. But the main reason for me to make this video is mainly to give you my general reaction to his reasons and kind of just the overall surrounding scenario as to why this all unfolded. During his press conference he gave Wednesday at Joe Gibbs Racing, Carl Edwards said he had 3 main reasons for stepping away from NASCAR. The first reason was that he said he was generally satisfied with his career accomplishments. Which, yeah, that's understandable. Obviously, he worked his way up to the top level in Cup. He never won a championship, never won a Daytona 500, so that's why I see that comment as a little strange to me. But he did win a lot of races. He was very close to winning the championship several years. It's hard to say he wasn't a great driver. His second reason for stepping away was that NASCAR is such a grueling schedule, such a major time commitment, and he wanted to dedicate more time to things outside of racing. And that's understandable. I don't know that much about Carl Edwards' personal life. He seems like a kind of guy that would have a lot of things to do. He's, like I said, he's only 37 years old, so he's still got hopefully plenty of time to do things. So I mean, that's just, you do you, man. Can't fault him for that. I mean, NASCAR is known for having a very grueling schedule. I mean, their off-season's not even 3 months. It's like less than my summer vacation. And you think about it, they only have like 2 or 3 off weekends a year. They're racing almost every week. So like I said, I can't fault him for wanting to have extra time to do other things. And his third and final reason was his health. Now, Carl Edwards kept saying very clearly that he was healthy, but he understands that there is significant risk that comes with driving race cars at 200 miles an hour. And he basically said that he was just happy that he can walk away from everything he's done at this point fully healthy with all this wits about him, you know, and can enjoy the rest of his life. And that's also understandable, especially these days with how much the NFL's come under scrutiny and how a lot of players there have been retiring early because of their fear of the concussion possibilities and what sort of implications that can have further down the road. That's all pretty understandable. And even in NASCAR, we've seen in just the last couple of years, Kyle Busch in that horrible wreck at Daytona a couple years ago broke his leg, was out for a long time. Tony Stewart's had back problems. Dale Jr. most recently this year just suffered a concussion on what looked like a pretty routine wreck. And he's missed so much of the year, and that could really mess him up further down the line. So it's safe to see that Carl Edwards definitely has a lot of that on his mind, which is, again, like I said, understandable. And if you've had a successful career like he has, and you have the ability, like financially and for whatever other reasons, you have the ability to step away and do other things, it makes sense, I suppose, to take it. When the news was first leaked that Edwards was retiring early, I was sitting outside of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland, and reading it at first, I thought, oh, it probably has 100% to do with health. I figured he's seen what Dale Jr. what happened to him, how hard it has been for him to come back to racing, and Carl Edwards didn't want to risk that down, especially this late in his career. And I figured that was kind of understandable, you know? And then thinking about it more, I remembered that last race of the season last year at Homestead, that wreck on the restart, he took a pretty big hit, and so part of me started to think maybe he himself had suffered a concussion and he knew it was going to be tough to get back in the car this year and he decided to step away altogether. That was my theory at first, but obviously nobody had answered any questions, nobody really knew anything. That was just a theory I had. At his press conference on Wednesday, Edwards was very clear, made it very clear that He was completely healthy, like he had no injuries. That was not his reason. So I tend to believe him. Now, one of the more interesting things about his press conferences was the fact that he said he refused to use the R word in reference to retirement, which leads me to believe that he will still be in the car at some point, probably during the next few years. He also said at one point that if he ever does choose to come back to NASCAR, he wants it to be with Joe Gibbs Racing, and he wants to jump back into that 19 car because it's going to be fast. And to that I say, hold your horses, Carl. Because the other big news to come out this week is that Daniel Suarez, the most recent Xfinity Series champion, will be jumping up to fill Edwards' spot in the 19 car in the Cup Series. And Daniel Suarez is the first Mexican-born driver to race in the NASCAR Cup Series, so that's a big deal for, sponsorship reasons and for promotional reasons, obviously. Not to mention Daniel Suarez has proven he's a pretty darn good driver, won the Xfinity Championship, and has been with Joe Gibbs Racing for the last several years. So for Carl to say that he might want to jump back in the car, if he means, just for like a one race here or there where they allow teams to add a fifth car to their roster for specific weekends, okay, that's fine. But assuming Daniel Suarez does well at all, Carl's not going to be able to just jump back into that car and kick Suarez off to the side. I don't think they'll give him that pass. Now, would I like to see Carl Edwards back in some races in the next couple of years? Of course I would. Carl's a fun guy to root for, I wouldn't mind seeing it. But even though he refuses to use the word retirement, I see it as very unlikely he ever races full-time at NASCAR's top level again. But who knows? He is young enough. We could be looking at the next Brett Favre of sports, and we may never get rid of him. So, yeah, in the end, I was very surprised to hear this news. I mean, if I thought any driver was going to just suddenly retire out of nowhere, I would figure it would be like Matt Kenseth or Kurt Busch or someone a little older that kind of, had their success in the past and they didn't feel like doing it anymore. That would have made sense. But Carl Edwards, a guy that you'd think, he's been so close before, you'd think that itch to get a championship would just be too great for him to walk away. I guess he was satisfied. Honestly, if there's anything about his announcement that kind of makes me question it at all, is the fact that he did say, I'm satisfied with my career accomplishments, and that right there, like the fact that he made that one of his 3 reasons, I don't think that's a very good reason. Because like I said, every driver wants to win a championship. Carl Edwards has never won a Daytona 500. He hasn't won very many big races in his career. Sure, he's made the chase I think 10 times, almost every year he's been in the sport. He's been successful and all that, but he hasn't really achieved the ultimate goal yet. And in this day and age where in the NBA, everyone's bragging about how many championships they got in the NFL, it's all about, did you win a Super Bowl, or if you didn't, you're lousy. You just think that something like that might translate to NASCAR, where, if you didn't win a championship, you still have a hole left in just your feeling about your overall career. But I guess if Carl feels like he's got nothing missing, I can't really fault him for that, He's had a successful career. Like I said, he's won races at every level. He's won races at every type of track. I mean, can't blame him, really. That being said, as a Matt Kenseth fan, this definitely takes some weight off of my shoulders, because Kenseth, we all know, I think he's the oldest full-time Cup driver in the series this next year, now that Stewart and Gordon and all them have retired. And for the longest time, Joe Gibbs Racing had Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez tearing it up in the Xfinity Series, and you just knew they were itching for a Cup ride somewhere. But then with Joe Gibbs Racing, with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards, and Matt Kenseth, you're like, well, who are we going to kick out? And I always figured for the longest time they'd probably kick Kenseth out eventually because he's the oldest. But now that Eric Jones is going to be with Furniture Row Racing this next year, which I'm really excited about, and now Daniel Suarez is taking Carl Edwards' spot, Kenseth can race as long as he wants. So to wrap things up, it's going to be different to not see Carl Edwards on the track next year. It's going to be kind of disappointing, really. But, this is an important year for NASCAR, because NASCAR's got a lot of talented young drivers showing up, and they've lost a lot of superstars the last couple of years. Jeff Gordon is gone, Tony Stewart is gone, now Carl Edwards is gone. They need some big-name guys to find success early so that they can, once again, kind of develop a new fan base to fill in for the ones that are leaving. And I'm looking at guys like Chase Elliott, who I think we all know is going to be successful. I think he's going to win probably a couple races this year. Kyle Larson, I'd even say Austin Dillon, or Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez now that they're up here. I mean, and several others. There's a lot of young drivers that I think have the talent that just need to really start to make a name for themselves, like a nationwide name for themselves. NASCAR just needs one of these young guys, or at least a couple of them, to really just contend for championships and be entertaining to make NASCAR relevant in a mass audience again. But until that happens, we'll still have some of our favorite veterans to root for. I'm looking forward to seeing Dale Jr. back on the track this year. Daytona 500 is like a month away, or maybe a little more than a month away. It's not that far, so we're almost there, guys. NASCAR, like I said, it's got a very short off season. Isn't that right, Matt? I know, it feels like the season just ended. But that's my video. Thank you guys for watching this really long thing. It's kind of like an out of the groove, but I'm not doing that right now, at least not until the season starts. So we'll just call this an extra little short. Check out my new Patreon page. I made a video about it a few days ago. Link is in the description if you guys can and are willing to. Would really appreciate if you pledge some amount per month there. Twitter is in the description as well. I uploaded a bunch of videos this last week, so I encourage, if you can, to check those out as well. They're on my channel and whatnot. Probably recommended to you on the side, or if you're on a phone below you right now, who knows. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this next NASCAR season is double thumbs up awesome. And I'll talk to you more once Daytona rolls around. Peace out, guys.